Hello and thank you so much for joining me. Tonight is Saturday Night Crafting, and tonight you'll notice my video is slightly longer than normal. It's about double time. We're going for about 24 minutes, but it is because I went a little overboard, got way too excited, and created tons of ideas for you that you can try out at home. So all you're going to need tonight is some stencils and some ink, and you will need a big shot or a cutting machine of some sort, something that can apply pressure to your stencils and cardstock. For my technique tonight, what I found worked the best were the big stencils. So not the intricate detailed stencils, but the ones that had nice big open areas, something that was quite easy to work with. So I'm using some of these ones here today. You'll see I'll focus on pretty much just one for the majority of the video because I like that pattern and I wanted to create a set of cards. Now I've also got this stencil here, which I'll show you how it looks. We can't quite do the technique, the full technique of what I want to do, but you can get away, if all you have is detailed stencils like that, you can get away with doing this technique. You just have to stop before you get to the end, where I show you how to kind of finish it off and make it sort of pop. You also will need lots of cardstock. If you're like me, you'll probably get carried away and you will need lots of cardstock to keep you going. And you'll need your die cutting platform. Now for me, I find with the stencils, I kind of need to work out and gauge what sort of thickness I need. So I'm going to go ahead and create my own little shim to go inside it to make sure that my stencil is getting the perfect amount of pressure to go in my die cutting machine. Today I'm using these colors here, but I do actually add in picked raspberry by the end. I felt like Victorian Velvet wasn't quite pink enough for my rainbow colors. I really wanted a rainbow set of cards that I can give away, and that was my goal today. I'm also going to use a white gel pen and a black baller roll pen. They're much easier to work with than a standard pen, as well as a spray bottle. I do add in my acrylic paint marker at the end. I just found it was so much faster and so much easier than the white gel pen, and it gave such a crisp, juicy sort of white look to it. Now I will do my best to link all the products down below in the description box for you. If I have missed something, please just give me a shout. Some products are not available. A lot of the stencils I'm using are not available anymore. They are just stencils in my stash. Now what I'm doing here is adding in a piece of cardstock, working out if it will squish nicely, and then decided I went with a piece of folded paper instead because my cardstock is quite thick. Now when I've got my sandwich all ready, I'm going to tape it all together. My big shot is annoying, it's getting old, it is literally going to die any day. The handle is practically falling off. It's not something I can afford at the moment to replace, but it means my plates wiggle around inside my machine, so I'm going to tape them nice and tight together. Now this works, but it doesn't last for very long, so it kind of died after about the 30th piece of paper I ran through it because I did go really overboard and had way too much fun. So it's up to you if you want to tape them together. I found it works better in my machine, but the tape did end up falling off not too far into my whole fun process. Now getting started, what we're going to do is just go ink to paper direct, or ink to cardstock. So I am just inking up as much as I can, make it really juicy, really thick, nice full coverage. Then I'm going to take my stencil and I'm going to tape it on top so it doesn't wiggle in my machine because we are going to go back and forth. Now I have not added any water, I've not added any moisture. I am solely running it through with a piece of cardstock over the top to make sure that I am getting that folder, that a stencil really pressed into my cardstock. It will make this technique a bit easier. It'll mean it squidges out a bit less. So I did this a whole bunch of different ways. I played for ages. Now my paper is getting stuck there to the top because I had some adhesive left on that stencil from where I peeled it off of its sort of packaging. So that's why that's kind of sticking a bit. So what I've done here now is I've just run it through about 3 times. You can see that it is stuck into that cardstock a little bit. And that's what we want to do so that when we add some water and we spray it down and we give it a really nice fine mist, that water is not going under the stencil and affecting the image under it. So I find if I squish it together first, it makes it easier when I add that water for the water not to go squidging everywhere. And the key is just a few mists. I did about 3 mists across my whole thing, really, really light, easy mist. This bottle is great because it is honestly the nicest sort of spray that I've got. I've got the Tim Holtz one and I can't get that thing to work for the life of me. The reason I tape it down as well is because it likes to stick to the cardstock a bit, and then that stencil will pop up, and then all of a sudden you're exposing that cardstock that you don't want to get water on to the water again. So that's why I add that little bit of extra tape, taping that stencil to my background image. Now this is after one pass, but in my rest of my cards I do it 3 times, sometimes 4, to really lift the color off of those areas that I want to have lighter. So the raised areas that are coming through the stencil, we want to have a little bit lighter. When I'm done with each of my stencils, I just spritz them with water and wipe them off. Super quick and easy to do. So again, I'm going to saturate my cardstock. This is what happens if you go and add the water first. So I'm going to share with you the comparison, so just so you know what it will look like. So if you want to spritz it first with water and put your stencil on top and then run it through your die cut machine, you do get a different result. You don't get quite the bold contrast in color difference, which is why I like to add the water after I've run it through at least once before. Like I run it back and forth 3 or 4 times to really press it in. Again, I've got sticky on the top of that stencil, which is why it's sticking on there. So for this technique, I add some more water and pull that color up again. And you usually get about 4 cards per go, because you're getting your card that is coming up underneath your stencil. You're getting your card that you could make created with the one on the left here, this one here, the sort of lifting part of it. And you get usually 3 or 4 of those lifts as well. So you can make a ton of cards using this technique. So here on the left is the one where we sprayed it with water first, and on the right you can see the one that we didn't spray first. And you can see those areas it didn't react with the oxide, and therefore it stays nice and dark. So I'm sticking with that technique. I had to re-ink my ink pad here. It was really dried out. So I always keep my ink pads, re-inkers to hand so that I can quickly add some more ink if they're running low. And again, I'm going to tape my stencil down. This is the stencil I'm working with here. This is from Alina Crafts on AliExpress. I did try a few times flipping my stencil over, because sometimes the pressure from the top can add a bit more oomph to your project, so that that ink transfer happens a bit more, and that effect we want, where we want our cardstock to kind of pop through the stencil, is a bit more prominent if you flip it upside down. So here I'm doing, I think I did 3 sprays for this one and ran it through. So I've got 4 cards that I can make out of this. And this is where I'm saying you need to have that tape, because it does stick to that stencil a bit. But look how gorgeous all the prints are that we're getting from it. And they will be perfect for cards in the future. They're not something I do today because, as I said, it's about 24 minutes, quite a long time already as it is. Now you could try doing some ink lifting by spraying it and using a cloth, but I found it didn't make much difference. I didn't get that much ink on my cloth. The pressure is where it's at. I find that the pressure in the Big Shot is where you get all the magic and the amazingness. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my stencil off, and I'm doing it nice and slow for you so you can see that beautiful big reveal. You get that gorgeous dark background, and then the oxides have reacted and mixed with the ink on the top. I'm going to share with you a few more of the colors I did, and at this point you could stop here if you have not got any stencils that have got a nice big area. If you've only got the intricate ones, you could stop here because you've got 4 gorgeous cards to work with, 4 gorgeous backgrounds to use, and they do look great in itself. But if you want to stick around, I'm going to share with you how you can make it pop a bit more, add a bit more oomph to it, and really make your cards quite special. So I had the Spice Marmalade there, and now this is the Victorian Velvet. I got 3 prints out of each of them, and I just think they're beautiful and stunning, and I'll use those another day in another card. Now here's my intricate one. And this one did leak a bit underneath that stencil. I got such a cool look on the background of it, and I thought, ooh, maybe I'll use the back side of it. But it is still gorgeous. It just was a bit more difficult to control that water and to really push into it because it was so intricate. Now, I didn't count how many I've got here, but I've got a lot. So you can see all the ones I did off screen in my own time with different stencils, just having to play with different techniques. I tried a whole bunch of different ways to do this. And as I said at the beginning, I'm sharing with you the one that worked the best for me. So inking it up, stencil on, run it through the Big Shot a couple times to really press that stencil in. Then add water 3 to 4 times and lift some of that color. These are all my extras. These are what I can use another day. They're slightly curled, but what I'm going to do is just stack them in one big bundle and then stick my husband's dictionaries and books, his economics books on top of it. Now here I've got Distress ink as well as Distress oxide. I wanted to share with you, you can do it with Distress ink or any water reactive inks will work. You get two very different looks. They're both gorgeous, and I really was itching to go down and do some Distress ink ones, but I already went down the rabbit hole of the oxides, and so that's what I'm sticking with today. Otherwise, I would have about 200 of these on my desk. So you can use Distress inks, but I'm going to just use Distress oxides today. Again, any water reactive ink will work. But you get beautiful impressions, gorgeous looks. They both look fun and unique. I just really like the oxides, and I already started on that one, so we're just going to roll with it. So here are all my backgrounds. I went with that picked raspberry as well, which is there on the top left. So we've got all these gorgeous ones. I do find the darker colors almost pop a bit more than the lighter ones. I quite like the dark colors a bit more. But they're all gorgeous and they all work really well. So right now we are going to go ahead and turn these into cards. Now when I was laying them out, I decided that actually I really liked the long slimline kind of look. So we have DL here in the UK, which is our version of slimline. It's just because our cardstock is a different width and different length to American cardstock, or North American cardstock I should say, and I wanted to put these into this kind of style of card. However, my problem was I didn't go far enough down with my stencils, so my cardstock is a bit short for a DL card. So if you've got that problem, this is a quick way to fix it. Add layers. Just layer the daylights out of that panel and you will have exactly what you need. So I wanted to put this on top of some holographic cardstock and then thought, no, it still looks a bit small and a bit lost. So I'm going to back it onto some white before I put it on the holographic. And now it works. Here comes the next bit of our technique, which is really going to make this pop and really going to make it look cool. I'm going to line my stencil back up with my piece of cardstock that I've just done. It's easier if you flip your bit of cardstock over, add your tape on, line up your stencil, and then press it down. That's the easiest way. It took me a little while to get that going on. And once that's in place, it's all perfectly lined up again. It slots in. The embossing bit helps to line it up again. And take your white pen or your black pen, whatever you fancy, whatever you think looks better, and we just start tracing. And we trace every bit of it. So this is where, if you've got those intricate stencils, this is where you're going to have some problems, because honestly, I did a couple that were intricate and I was sat there for a good 20 minutes stenciling in the stencil. And it was too much and it was really disheartening. So I kind of thought, no, I got to do bigger stencils. So you get this gorgeous look where it makes it look like it pops out. It outlines that color difference even more. So here you can see two that I did earlier. They're both the Uncharted Marina, and you've got on the left is white, on the right is black. Which do you like better? I don't know. It really stressed me out because I thought, oh my goodness, they both look great. So I did half of mine in each. Now, I still had some white space around the edges. I still had some bits that were kind of showing through where my stencil hadn't gone. All you need to do is grab a sponge and your ink and just kind of dust those edges, and you can fill in any white space that you may have accidentally still got on your card, and it will all blend beautifully well and look really good. So here's my Uncharted Marina, and I wanted to add a bit more interest and a bit more texture to the background, so I'm splattering it with water, and those oxides still react to that water even though we've doused it in loads of water already. It still reacts and you still get those water droplet looks on it, and it looks really cool. So you can see here on the samples, the one on the right, I've got the water droplets, and the one on the left, I don't. So again, there's another technique you can add to your card to add a bit more interest, whatever tickles your fancy. So here are the ones I did in white, and this is where I switched to an acrylic marker pen. It's got a plastic nib. The ink just flows out. It's really easy to use. There are tons of them on Amazon. Just make sure you get the one with like the plastic nib. I find that works really, really nicely. And here are my black ones. So I did half and half because I couldn't decide what I liked more, what I preferred. They both look stunning, but I went with those. If you're going to do the water droplets, by the way, make sure you do those water droplets before you put your pen down, which is why I shared with you on the blue one and not the orange one just a minute ago, because you don't want your black pen or your white pen to start smearing and smudging. So do any of your altering to your card base or your panel before you add that ink on top. Now my black penned outline ones I am backing with a black panel, and my white ones I'm backing with a white panel, just to kind of pull those colors in a bit more. Now it's time to assemble them and make some cards. So I'm going to stick with pretty much the same kind of method for all of them so that it's nice, quick and easy, and I can kind of bulk make these, and I can make my little cute rainbow set of cards that I can give away. So they are all backed onto a panel of solid cardstock, backed onto holographic card, and then onto my card base. All my cardstock, my solid color cardstock comes from Lime Tree Craft in the UK. They are fantastic. They're great value for money. My holographic card comes from another UK shop, which is Rainbow Card, and they are based in the UK but do ship worldwide, and they are fantastic as well. There's a discount code in my description box so you can check them out. Now here are all my cards ready to go, and for this one I decided to jazz it up a little bit. So I did some white splatters using my acrylic pen, and then I rounded the corners of everything. So the whole card is all rounded, so that's another way you can jazz it up and make it a little bit more special and a little bit more fancy. You can add those splatters, you can add a nice rounded corner, and it's quite a different looking card, but still gorgeous. And if you've got that little bit of extra time, you could add those little extra steps and kind of bling it up a bit more. So I'm going to finish that pink one later on, and now we can move on to finishing the cards. If you've enjoyed tonight, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. It means the world to me, and it adds to my ability to make this my full-time job and create content for you. Moving on to my cards, I wanted to have my sentiment coordinate and match with my cards, so I am going ahead and adding my ink to some scrap bits of cardstock. This is what I had left over from creating my DL cards. And I'm going to go ahead and create my sentiments that are going to go on the fronts of the cards. So I've got my bits of cardstock there with the ink on, and I've left it to dry. It's fully dry. Make sure it is dry, or else that ink will stick to your dies, and it'll make it a bit more difficult when you go to use them next and you get ink going everywhere. To make my life easier and to make it more simple, I'm adding double-sided tape to the back of them so that when I die cut them out, I can just pick them up and stick them down, and I don't have to worry about fiddling around with any little intricate die cuts and the messy glue, because when you put it on that holographic card, you do not want glue squidging out. It shows up really well. So I've just added some double-sided sticky tape to the back of the orange little panel that I created there. I can peel off my die cuts, and then I can go ahead and stick those letters on. These come all individually, not together as a bundle for this die set, so it is a lot more faffy and difficult if you're going to be using liquid adhesive. So this is a quick and easy trick and way to add your die cuts on that's really inexpensive, because if you've not got the right size of double-sided tape, you can just add another strip and add another strip until you've filled the whole back of it. It doesn't have to cost the world to have double-sided tape. Every pound shop, dollar store I know carries some, and just make use of what you've got. Again, I'm doing the same here. I'm adding some double-sided sticky to the back of a piece of black cardstock because I thought I would like my leaves to blend in with that black background that I've got already, and I thought it worked really well. The only downside was I started to feel at this point here I was maybe going a little Halloween. I didn't really think about the fact that it was orange and black, and I thought actually it's kind of going a bit Halloween, but once I put the leaves down I thought, okay, it looks like a fall card, so maybe this card will be great for somebody whose birthday is in October. To finish it off, I wanted to add some of these little water droplets, flat back, clear, beady things. I don't know what you call them. They're great to add on, and this little bundle from Alina Crafts comes with, I think, 5 or 6 different sizes of them. So you get a lot in that little jar, and they last forever. And all I need to do is pop down some glue. I know my glue dries clear, and then stick those little gems over the top. Now this hello one I popped up 3 times and then put the holographic card on top, and then I put my letters inside. I did a little bit of die cut inlay and put my letters back in for the hello. So I've got some dimension on that card, and these little gems kind of match that dimension as well. They're all about the same height, but that's how I finished off that card. I wasn't sure if you wanted maybe a demo on how I use those dies, the hello die. They cut the outline and the letters on the inside, so I thought I'd share with you really quick how I did that. So I die cut them both using my sticky tape on the back of them again. So I did that same trick, added my double-sided tape, that way I could just stick them right down, and then I just slot the letters in. And then obviously in between the B and the R and the A, you have the extra little bit that you need to slot back in, which I used from the holographic cardstock, stuck that right back in to sort of finish off that lettering. So really quick and easy way to get that sentiment on. And here are my finished cards. So I've used the Trinity Stamps Happy and Birthday sets. They come with multiple fonts and about 10 of each Happy and Birthday, which is really awesome. I've used some more of Alina's gems. These are the sort of crystal ones, so they're very sparkly and iridescent. And I added those to the flowers on the top, cut my flowers in half. And again, with my flowers, I added the sticky back on the back of that black cardstock before I cut it out to make it easier to stick down. And here's that card we did together using the Trinity dies and the Paper Rose dies, as well as Alina's gems. And we've got that beautiful orange one finished off with its beautiful orange envelope that goes along with it. These envelopes I believe I got on eBay. If I can find them, I'll link them down for you in the description box. I bought them quite a few years ago though. On my next card, we used the word dies as well as this Creative Expressions die set. It's really great because it's got beautiful embossing in it, so you don't need much for the flowers at all. I left them white to go with the white background and added a gem on each flower from my stash. I have no idea where I got them from, so I'm very sorry I couldn't tell you. On the next card, this is the green one we did. I stuck those flowers on just by gluing only the center down. I didn't bother with the rest of it, so it kind of pops up a bit. And I've got those little clear gems glued on there as well. Again, these are all designed to go together as a nice little bundle for someone. So I love that they all kind of coordinate. I just sort of use the same kind of dies and stuck with the same kind of method for most of my cards. On this one, I've added some shimmer pen to the words to make it pop a little bit more. And I really love how this looks. I really love that glitter. It really makes those letters come alive a bit more. And it ties in so nicely with that holographic card as well. And again, I've got my matching envelope to go with it, or my coordinating envelope, and it just looks gorgeous. On my last one, I used these dies here, as well as some glossy accents. So I thought I wanted to pop the glossy accents inside my die cuts so that I could get a really nice sort of raised area. But what I didn't realize is it would darken that ink for me. So now I've got the exact same colored ink, but it's slightly altered it, and it looks really cool. I really like how it came out. It looks like I have used like resin letters rather than just die cuts. So I think it looks really cool. I am so happy with how all these turned out. It was worth all that effort and having fun and playing around, because now I've got this gorgeous set of cards and they didn't take long to put together. I kept myself down to a few die sets, and then that made it easier to make the choices for the cards. Obviously, you could make them a bit more masculine if you wanted to use like maybe a star stencil, and then you could add some star die cuts on the top. But I mean, the world is your oyster. You could do whatever you like and have loads of fun. I've still got one card left to do. So I've got this one here, which I will hopefully finish off this week and shove on my Instagram. So if you want to see what that looks like when it's finished, then click my Instagram link down in the description box below, and you can follow along for fun. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm sorry it was a long one. I hope you had a good time with me, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. If you're in the UK, enjoy your long weekend and that bank holiday Monday. Take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye.